Welcome friends to the newest edition of Seahawkers What If, the most unique Seahawks recap show in the multiverse. I am your host, Clinton Bonner. Coming out and join me on Twitter at Clinton Bon. I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brandon Schultz. Find him out on Twitter at SeahawkersPod. And folks, you know, you wouldn't be here. This would not be the Seahawkers What If multiverse. We couldn't traverse it without the protector of Seahawks multiverse, and that is Mr. Phil Leidick. Gentlemen, boy, oh boy, we are just getting out of the lion's den there, right? We come out with the victory, we escape in some ways, and now we got to go down to New Orleans, and this is going to be a fun one to talk about because wow, some diametrically opposed defenses between the Lions and the Saints. And I cannot wait to get into that stuff. And before we do all that, we want to remind folks that please, if you're listening on YouTube, seeing it out there, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you're not out on YouTube just yet, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. And of course, if you're getting it just through audio with anywhere you can get that, that's great too. Our only request, you tell 212s, they tell 212s. I can't do the math beyond that. All I know is the Hawkra increases, gentlemen. There it is. The peace sign, the double deuces from Mr. Phil there. All right, so Brandon, kicking it over to you. Are you mentally prepared to leave that Lions den and now travel down to the French Quarters to see how we could do against the flowered ones down there, the New Orleans Saints?
Can we take the Lions defense with us to then pass on to the Saints as some kind of an interesting swap? I mean, I know that Phil has some extreme powers over the multiverse. Can we somehow just swap? And it doesn't even have to be the exact players. I just want to face that same style defense week after week now for the rest of the season.
Well, I do one quick thing before we do bring in the protector, Brandon. If Cody Barton didn't get on the plane, then maybe yes, right? So that was an open topic on 3 and 3
Can
out.
we share Cody Barton? Can we share him with the opponent?
Yeah, like when you have 13 players out on the field,
all-time defense,
and you have to have an automatic quarterback. And when you're playing out there, sure, maybe just let him play Iron Man style for all of them. So, Mr. Phil, how are you, my man? I know you got a trip coming up to mid-state in Washington, and thank you for getting this in with the team. But checking in with you, how are you after the big 48-45 Visois versus Detroit?
It was fun. I expected a ton of points, and we got an even bigger ton than I expected somehow. It was a good time. Watched it with my dad. First time getting to watch a game in a while with him. And
that's awesome.
He's like, I thought they were supposed to be bad without Russell Wilson on offense. And
didn't turn out that way.
No, not really.
Turns out hyper efficient and and extremely accurate are good things, and now more and more progressive too. So, Mr. Phil, I know we're going to get into the themiology and all that. And before we do that, I also know that you like to check in with the team we're about to go play and give a little bit of almost a 2-minute rundown. A little, what do we call it here? We got the previously with the protector. Thank you very much. Where you like to share with, what did you see? What did you see from these Saints? They played the Vikings. It was in London. Always kind of a weird thing when it's over there. But it was a good game. It was a good game. Tight fought double doink. And
double doink at the end. Yep.
What are the things you think the 12 should know about these Saints before we go marching in?
Well, the overall team is, I'd say it's a good mediocre, right? It's a good, and not in the bad way, not in the good way, just a good one. They're kind of banged up on offense, which we saw how much that mattered last week, but they're a little banged up on offense. They are worst in the NFL at the turnover margin, and that probably has as big a factor as to their record as anything. Their offense, I don't have a lot of notes on the offense as we do this previous with the protector. They're kind of uninspired, I felt like, because we got to see him play the same team we just got to see the Lions play with the Vikings. So you got a really good way of comparing. They're kind of uninspired, a little bit risky. Every once in a while it works. Ingram is a workman running back. He's not special. He's not bad. The Saints O-line, not nearly as good as Detroit's. There's no doubt when you watch both play against the Vikings, their O-line doesn't compare to Detroit's. They gave up a quick sack fumble, had their first down in the second quarter, so that took a while. The Red Rifle finally got a bit of momentum. He did that a couple times, led to a touchdown. Latavius Murray looked like the better runner. And I don't know if it's just because it's the second half or he's just better at running the football, but he looked better. He got a touchdown on a drive where he got going. Dalton is not very accurate most of the time, but when he gets on a hot streak, which we know how the Seahawks like to help quarterbacks get on a hot streak, but when he gets on a hot streak, I don't imagine this Hawks defense stopping them if the rifle's on, because he can really put it in there every once in a while, but most of the time he's not. And then I don't know if we're gonna get the lobster thief in this game either. I don't know if we have any indication yet. Are we probably rifling? Or are we probably has anybody heard if Jameis?
No, I think we're rifling this week. Yeah,
we're rifling. Okay, yeah,
it could be rifling again. And real quick, Brandon, he's talking about Latavius Murray. Do you have the latest greatest on Latavius Murray?
I don't think I do. What's going on with Latavius?
Hey, this is breaking news, fellas. Latavius Murray was claimed off the practice squad by the Denver Broncos. He is no longer a Saint. He's gone.
Okay,
I know, right?
Yeah. Thank you for telling me. I didn't know that. Okay. He looked better. He looked like the better runner. Like he's not all around.
Saying. Yeah, exactly.
He's not all around like Ingram, but when it comes to running the ball, he actually did something instead of just, I'll run right into this guy.
He gone. He's on the, we get to see him Thursday night because they're all banged up with Javonte Williams with the bad knee injuries and Gordon hurt. The Broncos have Phillip Lindsay and Latavius Murray now. Weird to go play Thursday night. So, but back to the previously.
We'll jump back in. Special teams, they were solid in coverage. They're mostly good tacklers. Anytime tackling's involved, the Saints are good at that. Had some mistakes. They were deceived pretty bad on a trick play. And so when we talk about the defense, I would say anticipation. They're pretty good at it, but you could use it against them a little bit. Very good tacklers throughout the game, even against the dangerous Viking playmakers. It was entirely different when the Viking playmakers, they're difficult to tackle their runners, their receivers. The Saints did it. I mean, when they got to somebody, they stopped them. And we know how difficult those guys are to tackle. They do seem fairly deceivable, though. When the play caller used their anticipation against them, the Vikings were often successful. Pretty tight in man coverage, but didn't always make plays on the ball. Little yak, again, they tackle, but if you sling it in there, they weren't really stopping the ball from reaching the receiver. Pretty good pass pressure in spurts. They had 3 sacks. They already have 13 on the year. So this is going to be a little bit different for our pass protection. They often brought good pressure from the edges. I felt like Cousins, who I love, but I felt like Cousins should have stepped up a lot of times, and he didn't. He'd kind of back up, and that opened himself up for hits he didn't need. Cousins was beating him with a lot of great throws. Matthew, of course, always a problem. Tackling, he had a pick. When they switched to more zone, Thielen was hurting them. They went back to man, and it was Jefferson burning them again. I think we have some options with a team like that as well. If they're going to do man, DK is going to kill them. If they're going to do zone, we know that Tyler can't be stopped in zone. So hopefully we employ some of the same things. Really, really good against the run in this game. Vulnerable against the pass for their defense. I would say, don't run up the middle on this team. It just didn't seem to work. And they've got great runners in the Vikings. Outside runs were sometimes successful. They had some of those different outside plays. There was not one good run up the middle. I didn't see one the entire game. Lattimore made a couple of decent plays in the passing game, but he also had a bad DPI. He's kind of a risk reward guy, of course. The result, football is weird, right? To me, the Vikings look like the better team, but the Saints still only lost on a double doink 61-yarder at the end of the game. And so that's what I had. Did you guys have anything to tag on there before we jump into our what if theme?
I think you covered it quite well. I took some notes. I'm definitely going to inject some of the stuff I've heard and that I saw with my own eyes in some of my answers, but I am ready for this week's themiology, and it looks like Brandon is as well.
Okay. At the end, we'll get on a subject when we get to our predictions on trust versus greed. I might have to mention at the end.
Ooh, I like
when
that.
I grew up, my dad said our next opponent, the one that we're facing this week, by many of their own fans, then they were called the New Orleans Aints.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my mom didn't like the word Aints. I wasn't supposed to use it, but the Aints are coming. My dad would talk about them. And our quarterback's most famous statement, there's kind of like this connection with the old time, the way they would call them the New Orleans Aints, with our current quarterback's most famous statement where they talked about, people wrote me off, but I ain't right back though. And so, of course, the theme with this game, Geno meeting the Aints, is what if they ain't? And my mom, I can't let her listen to this because it would hurt her ears. A lot of ain'ts we could have had. We're not going to do ain't true. Ain't the whistle that pulls the train, which I love that one. Ain't over till the fat lady sings. Ain't no mountain high enough. A cut dog ain't got no pups. What it is, what it ain't, and what it will be. Ain't no justice. Well, ain't that this? We should have done this on this show with the Seahawker show, but well, ain't that the catfish in the trap? We didn't do that one. Ain't it the truth? Ain't no thing. Ain't got the sense God gave geese. So that's not what we're doing. We ain't doing those. Instead, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch, and ain't mad at it. So we'll start with if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I have episode 31, which is probably means it's 37. Who knows what it is? But it's supposed to be Brandon gets to go first this week. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This question: what if the Hawks offense can succeed against this much better defense? Where do you expect Seattle to keep having success? Because we had every kind of success last week. Can we keep some slices of success against the Saints defense? Where do you expect that, Brandon?
Well, on the theme of it ain't broke, don't fix it, I think in the past we've talked about trying to shift toward a more run-heavy offense. And one of the things that you mentioned in your look back last week in the Vikings game against the Saints, yes, the Saints are really tough up the middle with their run defense. And so I would like to see the Seahawks stick with what they've been doing in the passing game, trying to get the ball to the tight ends, trying to get the ball to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I don't care if we're passing to set up the run, because in this particular situation, in this matchup against the Saints, I think that's the way to go.
Very good. How about you, Clinton? Ain't broke, don't fix it on offense. Where do you expect to still have success against a much better defense?
Phil, give you some love, man. The themiologies and I love the rundown of what we're not doing. And I
am a little bit disappointed we're not doing Ain't No Mountain High enough. But
yeah, I almost had that one. I just couldn't get good questions with it.
I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Sing
it's great. You got to work through it, right? So we appreciate that, and I know others do as well. So I just want to give you the live love here. So for me, Brandon and I, we talked about this on 3 and 3 Out about, can we invert this? Can we actually go kind of a little bit like full Brady the last 20 years where we do pass and pass efficiently so that we can set up the run in that way? And that's what Brandon just hinted at. So I will leap off of that and say, I really love our trips tight end sets. I talked about it a little bit, early this week already with the reaction show. I like the versatility and the creativity that comes out of that bunching. There's so much we are doing and creating different layers. And we got 3 pass catchers. It's really cool. It's like, I don't care. We don't have a tight end 1. We have a Voltron that's pretty bad, bad, what? Like
a trident, if you will.
A trident. Yeah, it's not quite a Voltron. That'd be 5. Sure. If there's an amalgamation out there of 3 beings, and I'm sure there's plenty of those. That's what we got at tight end, and I quite love it. The other piece I will go into from the running situation is, give me all the Abe's House of Pancakes pulling him across the formation you could give me. So if we need to, we're going to run the ball, and if it's not to go up the middle, great. Let's do that misdirection where you got like D. Eskridge going left to right, so you start pulling linebackers, and then on the snap you got Abe going the exact opposite direction, leading things, and they got a tight end and a kick out over there, usually Metcalf with a seal. That is a lovely little play concept that's working well. So if we can't go up the gut, that's what I'd like to see. Abe on the run and more trip tight end sets to keep doing what we're doing, because it ain't broke, so don't fix it.
Some pin and pull. I like it. All right, next question. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What if, Clinton, there is an aspect of the Hawks defense that actually ain't broke? And I wrote this thinking everything's broke, but then I listened to your 3 and 3 Out, and I'm like, I'm glad we have some positivity on the defense, just a little bit as I think about it. But what if there's an aspect that actually ain't broke? Can the defense show some effectiveness against this mediocre Aints offense, Clinton? Where do you expect us to be effective against a much lesser offense?
Yeah, this is great. And thank you for listening. And the place, and again, I went back and I watched it to do 3 and 3 Out. So I always do, always try to do a full rewatch and really watch the plays. And what I noticed was the first half of the game, the defense was not nearly as bad as people were saying it was, or the reaction to it, because we gave up 45 points, because they kept getting back in the game. And to me, it was like, well, it was kind of evident that over and over and over again, we let them back in, and it wasn't necessarily the defense. Like the Tyler Lockett fumble was a gigantic early example. So what I want to point to is, I think when you got Mafe on the field and you got, was it Johnson, right? Number 40?
He's hurt for a while.
Oh,
yeah.
Is he? Did he got? Oh, I didn't see how banged up he got, but Darryl Johnson.
He's IR'd, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go. So I get the Latavius Murray news over, and you get that one to me. Well, I liked what I saw from Johnson anyway. But Mafe also on the other side. So if we could see something kind of just, improve in that way and be, if what maybe wasn't so broken was some of that run defense getting actually a lot better. And I think the Lions probably could run the ball more effectively than the Saints can with the offensive line they have, with the players they have back there. Now will Kamara play? We shall see. We will see. And I want to save a little tidbit of Kamara for maybe a later question. But that's the answer, Mr. Phil, is I think that run defense actually showed okay progress against a good offensive line. Let's keep that trajectory going. That would be fantastic.
How about you, Brandon? Is there an area that ain't broke?
No.
What aspect?
No. It's all broke. I mean, the one bright spot on the defense has been Tariq Woolen. And as good as he can be, he can't cover everybody when it comes to the New Orleans wide receivers. They have Chris Olave, who's a first-round draft pick, really good receiver.
He's good.
They got Callaway, who has been pretty good, Marquez Callaway. And so even if Michael Thomas is on injury, I mean, they're deep at receiver. They have Jarvis Landry, who they line up in the slot.
And whoever their tight end is, pick him up and start him on your fantasy team, right?
Oh, man. Yeah. Juwan Johnson is the name that you're probably looking for.
Well, you got him and you got Troutman, right? So the two dudes and maybe
you might even go down to the third string tight end, because sometimes tight ends, they go quick in the fantasy draft. And, if you just need somebody to fill in, I don't think we're to the bye weeks yet. So you're probably okay. But if you've sustained an injury, go 3 deep at tight end for the Saints, and maybe you'll be okay, because even against the Lions, we saw a no-name tight end having success against the Seahawks defense. So to answer your question, I don't, apart from players here and there, Nwosu, having success, Diggs, relative success, and Woolen, I think that with this many options for the Saints, I'm struggling with this defense being able to have the type of impact that it's going to need to against the Saints team.
Okay. Yeah. Ominous.
Hate to be a downer this early in the what if.
Okay. Well, next category, we're going to move on. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch, Brandon. And that's a fun way of saying opportunity cost, right? What if the Hawks defense can pay to eat some tasty turnovers against this risky Aints team? What price or gambles might they need to pay to buy some turnovers? And we all know about opportunity cost. We live it in real life. It's one of the best things you can learn in econ. Certainly as a soccer coach, I had a good friend in my former work that was a defensive coordinator. And you always know if you're going to try to stop something, you got to give something up. But what if we just go all out to try to create some turnovers against this risky team? What price might you be willing to pay, or what might we need to do to try to really get in on some of these yummy turnovers, Brandon?
I feel like this is the best path for success for this Seahawks defense, because if you can't stop an offense from going down the field in the traditional sense of just dominating them in the trenches, stopping their run game, you're going to have to send some additional blitzers, put the pressure on Andy Dalton early in the game, and find a way to create some turnovers. That way you can get into one of the things that we saw against the Lions. They got up big early in the first half. Yes, they did sneak their way back in, but it never felt like the Seahawks offense, like they weren't in control of the game, right? So if the defense was allowing some big plays, you know that the offense could come back and put them again in the plus double digits. And so it never felt like the game was out of reach because they were always, well in the lead. And they're going to have to do that again here against the Saints. And to do that early, I think you need to create some turnovers early.
Clinton, how are we going to buy some turnovers?
I think that one thing that Barton actually has done well is blitz. He's been effective at it. So, he's not been effective in mostly the other parts of his game, which is just what it is. And I'm not going to go on to a large, again, whipping boy thing down the Barton path. But if we have a chip that we could sacrifice and say, well, he's not playing, especially well when he's not doing this thing, let's have him blitz. He did it a couple times in the Lions game and he was effective. He was screaming through the middle there. The play that Nwosu dropped the interception, that was caused by Barton's blitz. He had to get rid of it. He didn't see Nwosu. So let's generate, again, maybe some A-gap things where we could do that. And we also saw a Kobe Bryant blitz again last week, just so happened to be on a draw. And it was a run. So it wasn't like he over pursued it. He was, going right for the quarterback. He just couldn't get back to the running back in time. So they're showing that they recognize that we're not getting pressure with 3 or 4 and we have to manufacture. So I think that starts with Barton. He's not very effective elsewhere right now. So let's send him on a couple of blitzes. You can't do it all the time. That's just, you can't do that, but pick your slots, send Barton, get in Dalton's face if it's Dalton or Jameis. I mean, honestly, Jameis.
I mean, which one would you rather face?
Oh, this is a dangerous
Dalton
question.
for sure for me.
Yeah,
Really?
I still think it's...
They both are risky with the ball, but Dalton throws some horrible passes even when guys are wide open a lot of times. And that's he's going to get those chances. Yeah.
So I think I'd rather see Dalton at this point in the career. I think Jameis is more dangerous and still a little bit more risky than Dalton. And you get in Dalton's face, he'll huck the ball up too. He'll throw it there too. So I'd say I'd rather see Dalton. I'm with you, Mr. Phil. And I want to see Barton blitz to try and cause a little chaos, a little confusion. And this time Nwosu catches it and brings it back for a pick 6.
Well, there was some great symmetry there, Mr. Clinton. Your name is Clinton Bonner, and you talked about Kobe Bryant, and you also talked about Cody Barton. And so Clinton Bonner is picking the other CBs in his life to they've had some big boom plays and mostly bust plays, right? So why not risk them? They might give up something big, but maybe they'll do something good for us. Okay, next part, ain't no such thing, Mr. CB, as a free lunch. What if New Orleans, good run defense, keeps Penny's yards down in the first half? I think there's a good chance in most versions of the multiverse that we're going to see that, but they basically say no lunch for you. You're not eating, Penny. What will you hope Shane does in the second half? I think there's some unique answers that could be there for some specific reasons if you watch the last game. But if he's just not getting anything done, they hold him back. How would you like Shane to make some adjustments in the second half, Clinton?
And is the adjustment specifically to get the run game going? Is that the objective of the question, or it's open?
Not necessarily. How do you want him to adjust? Just give up on the run game and just throw, or try some more creative run? What do you think? Because I think there's some dangers, right? If we just give up on the run game, isn't there, against this great pass rush?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, listen, the New Orleans Saints have a couple of players that are my absolute favorite non-Seahawks in the league. Demario Davis is my favorite non-Seahawk. Honey Badger, Matt, I mean, he's freaking awesome. Like he's a joy to watch play football, right? And they got Davenport, they got Cam Jordan, who just, for how many years has that guy just been just killing people, like getting through, getting sacks. This is a no joke defense, and I enjoy watching them because they hit, and they hit, and they hit. They keep coming at you. I think what we talked about earlier, though, to answer the question, Phil, and what you alluded to about like the up the gut, just really not the place to do it. Well, let's look at those counters. Let's look at those. How about some student body rights and lefts? And is there a potential to run a Geno student body left or right, like the Josh Allen special at this point, right? Just get in shotgun and then bring everybody left and let Geno kind of read it and get upfield for 6-7 yards a take to try and loosen things up, because that's like congestion, right? You got to loosen it up a little bit, get them seeing a few other reads. And then you might get that chance, especially with Penny, to do like a counter where he's breaking back across the grain and he's gone because they are an aggressive defense. So they might even over pursue. So that's what I'll go for now. And let's see what Brandon has to say. But I'm interested to know if these are some of the ones that are, kind of on target for what you were thinking too, Mr. Phil. But of course, Brandon, I'll do your job for a sec, Phil. Brandon, what's your take?
That's going to be a struggle, I think, with the run game based on all of the components of the defense that you mentioned, right? With Davis as the linebacker, with Matthew. I think if the Saints want to focus on stopping the run, they're going to do it because they have the personnel to do it. Apart from maybe trying to do some of these jet sweeps like we've seen from Ken Walker, where it gets him outside quickly, that's where you're going to have to test this defense in the run game, is at the edges. It's not going to happen up the middle. I don't think. I mean, like you said, you can't do everything and not test the middle of the defense. Like, you were going to have to see some of those just to keep them honest.
Yeah.
But I would say, get your tight ends involved. Go back to what Clinton said in that earlier answer of his, where you have all the tight ends bunched up to where you're running behind your big tight ends, and maybe you get another pulling guard in there too, and try and change things up that way. But really to test the edges, and I think having your tight ends in there blocking, that's, I guess, what I would try with against this particular defense.
My point is, we can't just scrap the run game, I think, and you guys are coming up with ways to try to achieve the run game, and that's exactly right. I just hope Shane doesn't say, well, we can't run, let's just throw it, because Cam Jordan is going to kill whichever tackle he lines up against if he knows, hey, they're just passing, right?
It's going to be a test. I mean, for Lucas and Cross to have Davenport and Cam Jordan lined up across, we're going back to, well, I don't know. Did the 49ers have a similar pair quite like this one? I don't know. This is going to be another big test. I guess it goes back to that opener against Denver when you had Chubb and who else was on there, that Denver defensive line, where we were kind of concerned. Jared? But I don't know. I think this might be the toughest test yet for the two tackles.
Yeah, and they can't. Even if we don't get a lot of yards, and maybe I'm hoping to help fans as we watch, even if we don't get a lot of big, great plays in the run game, doing it anyway, I think it's important, just because if you don't, Gino's going to get killed. Right. Gino, if they don't have to at least respect it to some level.
Yeah.
Okay. Next category. So it's Ain't Mad at It, which will start with Brandon. What if the Aints have some success on offense, which I say some just to be funny, as they have success against what you believe is a broke defense on offense? What would least anger you? They're doing this to us, and you're just, okay, I kind of expected this. This will get you the least mad if we're losing on defense in these areas. Go ahead, Brandon.
I do feel like I have some frustration with the defense that's showing through on this, but you know what? If Kamara's having a big day, I guess that would make me least mad, because it's my expectation, just because of all of these Saints games in the past where the Seahawks defense has come up against him. I mean, even going back to, how long has Kamara been in the league now? He's been a problem every single time, and he's so physical, and this defense has shown that they haven't been. And so I guess it would make me the least mad if he's steamrolling over Cody Barton, because it's kind of what I expect. There you go.
It's good to prepare yourself for some things not going how you hope, so that you don't have to be mad and say, they've got the better matchup.
This is what I expected. They have the better matchup in the run game. If they're getting to the second level against our linebackers and Cody, I guess I should, maybe that's optimism that Cody Barton's actually getting run over, because that means he's in the right position.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. Found the right hole this time, right?
How about you, Clinton? What would you be the least mad at if our defense is losing to the Saints in this particular area?
It's funny, like when Brandon was suggesting that he'd be the least mad about Kamara going wild, I was like, it's like I'm the 180 on that one, because it's the Hawkinson, we got to get the only guy they have left type thing. And Michael Thomas might still be dinged. We'll see. Last year in that Saints game, Kamara racked up 10 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown, that 13-10 loss. He was the only dude. Now, again, we were so conservative with Geno, and I do not expect that at all. This time we better not be. And with that, we let the guy who can't beat us. And that's a tried and true Seahawks-ism. And I really don't want to see that. What I would be okay with is if we end up seeing an Olave, 55-yard, 60-yard touchdown, like something like that. If we get burnt over the top, and it's because I don't expect Michael Thomas. He's first of all, he's hurt. Second of all, he's more of a work the middle of the field reception, high receptions, slants kind of guy. So I think it's Traquan Smith is one of their other okay wide receivers. But, if Olave is out there or just anybody is like burning our cornerbacks deep and we're taking chances with a little bit more man coverage, I'm okay with that. We played a lot of zone. Last week, I think was maybe I don't know the percentages yet, but going into last week, we were we played the most zone out of any team, period, from a cornerback situation. I want to still see some more man and be okay with them getting over the top and letting the red rifle try. That's okay. He ain't 28-year-old or 27-year-old Andy Dalton, and that Andy Dalton was good, right? So he's at point of his career where he's a middling, aging quarterback whose arm I don't think is quite what it used to be. So let's see that. Let's if Tariq or Bryant or Sidney Jones gets burnt for a deep one, I can live with that because I think it means we're in a position to be more aggressive.
You know what? I do want to revise my answer because, I think based on what you said, Clinton, I think it would make me, because one of my previous answers was if we're sending pressure to try and generate that pressure on Dalton. And so if he's picking up the blitz and beating it and finding a way to do that, then I guess that would make me less mad because at least the defense is operating in the way that I want to see it, or I think it's giving us the best opportunity to win. Yeah, I think Kamara still beating us would make me mad. More mad than that.
We're all going to get mad. Yeah. Okay, Clinton, just get ready. You got to prepare yourself with this defense. Clinton ain't mad at it. What if the New Orleans defense does a great job against Geno? Like they really have a good game plan for him. They've had 4 games on. How might Geno keep you from getting mad at the offense overall? Like they're doing everything right. What can Geno do to keep you from getting really upset with the offense overall? Some specific Geno abilities.
Okay, this is a good question. I think that some of the strengths of the Saints defense is right in that linebacking core. They're good, man. And they hit and they travel well and they know what they're doing. They cover well. This is a good, very sound defensive team. So my expectation is that the middle of the field will not be as wide open as it has been the last couple of weeks. And Geno has been loving that area of the field and Shane Waldron scheming things open for that area of the field. So with that, I just think conceptually, we probably have to scheme some things that are more to the flats, even more checkdowns, like get the running backs involved more. I'm not saying screen passes because for whatever reason, those still do not work for us, right? But more things where you're dragging across the formation and you're hitting dudes in stride, that are really meant to get to the edges and get to the sidelines. I'm not saying push the ball 30, 40 yards downfield. We'll see a little bit of that, I'm sure. I just think the center around the hashes is going to be a lot more clogged up this time than versus Atlanta or versus Detroit. And we've got to adjust for that. So more Penny and Walker and Fant and, Parkinson out to the outskirts and that's okay. If they have a chance to beat a dude and sometimes they only get a yard, sometimes they wiggle it and get 4 to 5 more yards, take what you can get. Just chunk those things along, take the high percentage stuff. And then as things open up, then expose the middle of the field. So I think that's how Geno could balance those things back is get a little wider this time with his, his cone of influence, if you will.
Brandon, how can Geno protect your anger quotient? If they're playing him really well, what can he do? And if they're playing him great, what things do you think he could do to help us?
The 2 things that he can really do to help us, especially when you consider their pass rush, especially when The corner, I mean, Lattimore out at corner, I think he's pretty good, but I think Metcalf, after seeing what he did last week, I think he can have even some success against Lattimore. If Geno is getting rid of the ball quickly and avoiding turnovers, I think those are the two key things.
Yeah.
Because if he's holding on to the football, and if he has any turnovers in this game, it's really going to put the team in a tough position. And I know that, I mean, is that a lot to ask? Based on what we've seen so far this season, I feel like it's doing more of the same. But I think it's really going to be critical against the Saints defense.
Definitely. Last question, Brandon. Ain't mad at it. This is the bonus one. What if some underperforming Hawks still need time? Can you name some players that you're still waiting for? You ain't mad at them yet, but they need to hurry. Brandon, you got some guys.
Man, you could go offense, you could go defense on this particular question. One guy that I'm not mad at yet, that I do think still has some time to develop. And I know, listening to Adam on some of our previous flagship shows, I know he's frustrated with cornerback Kobe Bryant, but I think there's still some opportunities here for him. We saw him cause that fumble last week and
get a sack 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, and like Clinton said, on some of those cornerback blitzes where he's coming off the edge, and if the quarterback decides to hold on to the football, that's when he's going to be in big position to make those splash plays. So yeah, he might be the guy who we see giving up some plays here and there to Jarvis Landry over the middle through the slot. But if he can be our turnover guy on defense, if he's doing the ball punch out thing, if he's screaming off the edge and causing a fumble, we have a spot for a guy like that on our team. And yeah, if he's just being average when it comes to defensively at corner, I can accept those big plays when they come.
He seems like a playmaker already. He just needs to shore up the regular responsibilities. Yeah. So let's give him time before we get too mad. How about you, Clinton?
Yeah, I like that. I like that answer. And I do like what I'm seeing from Bryant. And he's clearly passionate, right? Like he's got that alpha, that dog in him, as they say. I'm going to go back to my boy for 2 years now and say, I want to give D. Eskridge a little more time. I'm not mad at the Eskridge. He hasn't gotten on the field as much as I would hoped. And I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm sure it is back to him. With that, I'm not mad at him. And last game we saw him more involved and it was nice. He did get the jet sweep. He had the reception. He's being used in the pre-snap motions as we saw, a little bit last year. At this point in his career, I appreciate what Goodwin is. I appreciate what Goodwin does and what he brings to the team from the vet presence. He knows his stuff. And, he's number 11 and D is number 1, right? I just want to see more number 1, a little bit less number 11, and with the understanding of let's get the young dudes really in this thing. And in year 2, D's not exactly a young player. I think he's like 25 or 26 years old already. He's not a young second-year guy. I think he's 25. The time is now. He's got the ability, and I'd love to see him actually emerge as that wide receiver 3, and maybe back on punt returns. But again, he's got to earn that. One Tyler Lockett mess up doesn't tell me to take Tyler out of there. I know other people are kind of screaming for it, but I'll let Pete make that call. I want to see more D. I want to give him the right time. I think he still has chapters to be written this year where it's going to be like, okay, he's a valuable contributor at the very least. And I'm excited for that. That's what I want.
Awesome. Okay. And our concluding section where we get to our predictions. Last week, Brandon nailed the score. Clinton, for nobody knows this unless they somehow hacked into our Twitter conversation. Clinton sent in a different score. He decided to go ahead. Remember last week he did pick the Lions. Well, he sent in to me that he would like to change it and pick the Seahawks because of all the injuries on offense. Turns out that injuries on offense didn't really factor into the game a lot. Their offense was fine. It was our offense that won the game. But anyways, Brandon nailed the score. So even if we gave it to where they both picked the right team, Brandon got the differential just right. So Brandon now leads on that 2-1.
Nice.
I did mention we need to talk about trust versus greed, right? And Brandon nailed the double dragon left and right tackle for his what if superhero. But a superhero, we need to trust him to do what we need and not be overly greedy. And all Brandon had to do was say, my wish are the rookie tackles. They're going to play great. And he would have nailed that. But what did you do, Brandon?
I screwed up. I got greedy. I said that our tackles would have no sacks and no pressures.
No pressures. You wanted no pressures.
I wanted no pressures. I thought that would be very heroic. But as it turns out, I think having no sacks was also heroic. I should have just dialed it back. I went big, and now I have to go home.
Yeah. But anyway, so it was a great wish. It was a little greedy. And then Clinton asked for Lockett to have 8 catches. He had 6, but Lockett was almost a superhero. He was definitely solid. I think this week it might be a good chance for him to really do something again. But we're not really keeping track of the wish other than just to throw it back and say, hey, nice prediction. And it was a great prediction on our Double Dragons as they held up well. Lockett continues to play well every single week. Brandon, you get to go first. First, your what if superhero wish and your score for this matchup down in New Orleans.
My superhero for this week, I think I want DK Metcalf. I want back-to-back 100-plus yard performances from DK because I think that'll be what helps open up maybe some opportunities for Ken Walker, for Rashad Penny in the run game, is if they really have to try and focus on stopping DK. So, 100-plus performance from DK Metcalf. My prediction, unfortunately, I know Dave Bloomquist is saying that coming off rest, especially going to London, is going to impact a team like the Saints. I don't know if it's going to impact it enough. I think the Seahawks lose 23-16.
23-16 Aints. All right, Clinton, who do you got for your wish and your score prediction?
Okay, the wish. I'm going to wish. I say it 3 times for KW the third, Kenneth Walker the third. Huh. And this is not don't want Penny to do his thing. I want Kenneth Walker to be celebrating in the end zone and keeping that football because it's his first NFL touchdown. I'm not going to go greedy and go any more specific than that. Just the Kenneth Walker TD.
Oh, you guys nailed the Penny stuff. That wasn't part of the wish, but
that's hat tip to Brandon.
2 long ones.
Hey, Brandon said
they were motoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Motoring.
2 30-yard touchdowns Brandon predicted, right? Which is amazing. Ken Walker, first NFL touchdown. I'm going to put the caveat on there that I hope it's in a big moment. I hope it's a sealer or something like that, or a late third quarter, fourth quarter breaker. That would be super, super special. I do want that wish. I think the Seahawks win this game. I think New Orleans is still banged up. I think we win this one about 29-20. I think we're able to still put up points, move the ball, and play solid enough, incrementally better defense against a worse offense than the Detroit Lions. So 29-20, our Seahawks take it to go to 3-2, and Ken Walker is in the locker room getting the football signed by his offensive lineman. That's it.
Very different predictions. Very different. 2-score win predicted by Clinton Bonner. So what if the Aint episode is over? The scores are written down, locked in. I'm out of town, so don't try and change it on me, Brandon. I know over the course of the week, you're going to start thinking, I think the Hawks can do it.
I hope so. I hope I'm feeling good enough to want to change it.
This is what you got. All right, gentlemen, anything else?
No, sir.
So what if we say go Hawks?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.